So one of the most critical aspects of being a successful simulation engineer is the ability to distinguish between what I call the essential and the non-essential element in a model. In FEA, and I'm pretty sure also in CFD, I'm not a specialist in CFD, but creating a model that accurately represents the physical system is crucial. However, it is equally important to know which details can be simplified or omitted without compromising the accuracy of the result. And this is where being wide plays a vital role.
Today I'll be interviewing Dominique Madier. Dominique is the founder of the FEA Academy and the author of Practical Finite Element Analysis for Engineers. He has 25 plus years of experience working for companies like Airbus, Bell Helicopter, and Pratt & Whitney. I hope you enjoy our conversation, and please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss an episode. Thank you so much for joining today, Dominique. I am really excited to talk with you on the show.
My pleasure, Kate. Thank you very much for the invite. Very appreciated.
Yes, absolutely. So what was the most recent FEA job that you did?
You mean in terms of consulting?
Yes, in terms of consulting.
In terms of consulting, now I am working on a project for the company Beta Technologies in Burlington, Vermont. I'm working from Montreal, and because they have an office here in Montreal. And what I am doing, obviously a finite element analysis. So I am developing the full aircraft FEM for this project. And what is this project? This project is what we call an eVTOL. So it's a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft powered by electrical power. Okay, so it's an electric aircraft, and it's a cargo aircraft, 7,000 pounds max takeoff weight. And it's very challenging because, as I said, it's an electric aircraft, so a lot of challenges for an engineer, and nothing electric still is flying for now. So it's very, very advanced technology. And I'm working on as I said, on the global finite element model for the full aircraft, and it's what we call structural analysis. So the office here at Montreal is in charge with the development of the structure, which is a composite structure, carbon fiber structure. So it is what I am doing now as a consultant in FEA.
Yeah, that's very exciting. So I wanted to jump right into it because a lot of times people's understanding of simulation, and my observation is that they look at it just as something to learn, but they forget that it's a tool for a final product. And that's really a huge theme that I think comes out in both your book that you've written, which we'll talk about more as well, but in connecting the dots between the theory and how it's actually applied. But before we get into that, I do want to back up a little bit and talk about your beginnings with picking this career path. And so I think many people would be surprised to learn that you grew up in a very small town in France, and you describe yourself as being an average student. That was something that I found interesting. And to me, this highlights the subtlety about the difference between being smart and being wise, and what successful simulation really takes. And so could you share your thoughts on that, the difference between being smart and then maybe in wisdom or experience of how that comes into play and how you deploy that knowledge in what you're doing?
Yeah, indeed. In my early years, I was not the top student in my class, and it took time to me to grasp the complex concept quickly. So this forced me to develop a methodical and persistent approach to learning. See what I mean? So I learned the value of hard work, perseverance, and the importance of understanding the fundamentals in detail. So these qualities have been invaluable in my career as a simulation engineer. Okay, unlike subjects where memorization and quick recall are enough, I think that engineering simulation require a deep understanding of physical principles and uh, the ability to apply them to the real world problem. So one of the most critical aspects of being a successful simulation engineer is the ability to distinguish between what I call the essential and the non-essential element in a model. In FEA, and I'm pretty sure also in CFD, I'm not a specialist in CFD, but creating a model that accurately represents the physical system is crucial. However, it is equally important to know which details can be simplified or omitted without compromising the accuracy of the result. And this is where being wide plays a vital role. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It involves a keen understanding of the problem at hand, the real problem that we want to simulate, the objective of the simulation, and also, very important, the limitation of the modeling technique that we're going to use in order to build this simulation. Let me give you an example. I'm going to talk about what I know, structural analysis, obviously. I'm a specialist in structural analysis in the aerospace industry, but what I'm going to say is valid for any structure we want to analyze, okay? So in structural analysis, it's not sufficient, for example, to create a highly detailed mesh or apply all possible loads to the model, okay? Instead, an engineer must identify the critical stress point before to start the modeling of the problem. And the engineer must identify also the areas where the structure is more likely to fail and focus on the region to make sure that the simulation will produce accurate results. So it means that in this process, simplifying the model in less critical areas can significantly reduce the computational time, but also the resources that we will need to have accurate results, to obtain accurate results. So it means that this requires a practical mindset. You know, the ability to prioritize, and focus on the ultimate goal of the simulation, which is to provide reliable and actionable insight with accuracy. I would add, experience plays a significant role in developing this capability, you know. And over the years, I have worked in a lot of projects in the aerospace industry with varying degrees of complexity, depending on the project I had the chance to work on. But I can say that each project has taught me, valuable lessons about what works and what doesn't. Because believe me, everything doesn't work. Something works and other thing doesn't work. And this accumulated experience permits me to approach new problems with a more discerning eye, quickly identifying the potential pitfalls, and in simulation there are a lot, and areas that require more attention. So it had also taught me that the importance of validating the models against experimental data and the real world observations. Because at the end of the day, okay, we're doing simulation, but we're doing simulation in order to predict the reality. So it's very important, this validation aspect, to ensure that the simulation are not just theoretical, okay, but they are practically real. So to conclude on this very good question, I would say that FEA and CFD in FEA and in CFD, success not just about being smart or technically proficient. It's about applying knowledge effectively, making informed decisions, and continuously learning from experience. Is very important. And it is what ultimately leads to successful outcome in the complex, in the complex and the ever evolving field of simulation.
That was so well articulated, Dominique. Thank you for explaining that. Yeah. One follow-up question on that. You talked about it comes from experience and learning what not to do. How did you learn what not to do, right? You talk about how do you get that experience and how do you make sure you're learning from it? I feel like that's a struggle for a lot of people, right? They've taken a course or so and they're trying to get their first job and they're terrified that they're not prepared enough to get their first job, right? That transition from maybe degree to industry can be a bit rough for people and hard at times. So what advice or maybe what things did you do to help yourself with that transition?
The question of knowing what to do and what not to do, what is working, what is not working, it's only based on experience. So it is what I like to call it is trial and error. Okay, and on top of that, you always keep with you your engineering judgment. Okay, so trial and error and your engineering judgment, and then you have to make your decision based on that. You are able to know what is working and what is not working. And very important, always refer to the experimental aspect of developing a structure. Because when we develop structure, at a certain point in the project, we're going to do tests. Okay, so we're going to add test data. So we have to do correlation and validation based on that. And with that, with our engineering judgment, the test result, the reality, how the product perform in the reality, we can compare with the simulation and we know what is working and what is not working. Obviously, it's good to learn what I like to call the modeling technique, the universal modeling technique. Because as soon as you know the universal modeling technique, you can apply them with any FEA software, okay? And you know that it will work every time because they have been tested before by other engineers work on project, and they know that they work because they experimented those modeling techniques. They did the correlation, and it is what I publish in Reddit in my book. Those modeling techniques that I know they are working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe transitioning a little bit here too, what are some common misconceptions that you think people have about what it takes to become an FEA or a simulation expert, shall we say?
Yeah. There are a lot of misconceptions about that. Let's try to summarize a little bit. And the first one is the fact that to become an expert, we have to keep in mind that talent is not innate. Okay, it's a misconception to believe that talent is innate. Why natural ability can provide a head start, it is not the unique determinant of expertise. Studies have shown that deliberate practice, perseverance, and a growth mindset are far more critical. Expertise is built through consistent effort and learning. I'm sorry to say that, but it is the base to become an expert. Consistent effort and learning rather than being born with a specific set of skills. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Another misconception I think about becoming an expert, it is the fact that the experts know everything. It's completely wrong. In reality, expertise often involves a deep but narrow focus. Experts are usually highly specialized in a particular domain, okay, with extensive knowledge and experience in that niche. So they continuously learn and update their skills in this particular domain. Okay. Another misconception is time alone creates experts. Okay. It's wrong to think that simply spending a lot of time on an activity will lead to expertise. No. Okay. Why time is a factor? We cannot say that it's not a factor. It is one, but the quality of that time is what truly matters. Deliberate practice, again, I repeat myself, but practice, and practice. Very important to become an expert. It is characterized by focus, goal-oriented, and feedback-driven activity. It's essential, okay? So it's another misconception about becoming an expert.
Yeah.
My favorite, I would say, we are, I'm pretty sure, okay, you are that expert who don't make mistakes. In reality, making mistakes and learning from them is a crucial part in becoming an expert. Expert often experiment. I said that before. How I know that something is working and something is not working by doing mistakes. Okay, and knowing that I did mistakes. Okay, so experts often experiment. They take calculated risks and they learn from their failures. It's very important. So, as I said, this is an iterative process of trial and error, okay? And it's fundamental to developing the deep understanding and what we call the innovative solutions, okay? I have a lot of misconceptions, but to keep that short, I would say another one. I would say I would like to talk about since you want to talk about expertise, the expert themselves, the motivation. A misconception is that motivation is constant. I completely disagree with that. Okay, it's a myth that experts are constantly motivated and passionate about their work. Like anyone else, experts experience periods of doubt and lack of motivation. It's natural, it's normal, okay? But the key difference is the ability of the expert to pull through this period with discipline and dedication. Did it open?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. It for someone who's not familiar with the phrase deliberate practice, just a little context. I love that you brought that up because it's Anders Ericsson's research that was done in the 90s, and there's tons of research and other things that have been expanded upon that. But just as you talked about, the idea is that experts who, and I think the first test, maybe you can correct me, it sounds like you know a lot about this as well, but the first tests that were done were in some very, I think it was music, violin performers, and those who hit a supreme level of performance. And they noticed that there wasn't a time difference, and some people almost practiced less than others, but it was just as you talked about, the quality of that practice and the focus. And so this brings up an important point that I have noticed personally. During my PhD, I noticed that I was not on social media like at all. I would get on LinkedIn for some networking and trying to set up calls with people for preparing for the job search. But now that I'm posting more regularly and trying to run a business, I've noticed the distraction of LinkedIn so much more heavily. And so in today's world, I think that's the norm, right? So would you give any advice to people about balancing those periods of focus and how important they are? The phrase I've started using is, if you're spending your time, if you think you're on LinkedIn to learn, then you have a pretty low bar for what learning is, right? Certainly you can be connected with resources and things, and I certainly encourage that, but you should be dedicating chunks of time that are completely focused to actually doing stuff, which I think some people are surprised by that, just like you said.
No, you're completely right, kid. The focus, it is fundamental for any learning process, and personally, in order to have this focus, I don't know. I think I'm not the right person to talk about that. I'm going to tell you why. Yeah, it is because I have the ability to focus very easily. Okay.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't do any effort to focus. Okay.
Mm.
But an advice I would say, I would share if I would have only one, it have a plan.
Mm.
Okay. It helps a lot to keep focus. And for sure, switch off the social media. Okay. Switch off everything. And have a plan, follow the plan, and it will help you to gain this focus.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
excellent.
it's a training also. It's a training also. The more you practice your focus, and the more easier it's for you to keep it.
Yeah. Well, I noticed in grad school, especially, it was hard for some people to go an entire class period without checking a phone. Like
Yeah.
just the generation that is growing up, and it's not getting any easier by default, right? If it's
Yeah.
getting easier for you, it's because you do have a plan. So really love all of the misconceptions you brought up, but particularly what you talked about, the first one too, of talent is not innate. There's a
Yeah.
great book, Talent is Overrated. There's lots of psychology that I feel like, because we talk so much in the engineering curriculum, the CAE curriculum, about the technical details, we forget this other body of knowledge that is extremely real and just as much ever present in our work as the technical realities. And so really
Correct.
love that you brought that up.
You-
Yeah. So transitioning here a little bit to a time in your life, you've written about crashing your aircraft,
Oh yeah.
and the first off, it sounds like it was just a terrible experience, and the pain, all of that, pretty intense. But I do want to touch on the aspect of what that did for you and the focus that it gave you to work on your book. You'd had the idea to write a book. So maybe if you could just tell us the story of how the aircraft crash and the book tied together, and your recovery, and what came about because of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. With pleasure. I'm going to share that story with you. It, it, I like to call that the story behind the writing of the book. Because as you said, I started to write the book in 2017. Sorry, in 2016.
Mhm.
When I say writing the book, I'm talking about the manuscript. Okay. It was progressing well, but I was doing that in parallel of my consulting job. So it was progressing well, but not that fast. And unfortunately, at the end of 2017, I crashed my aircraft, my Piper Cherokee, in a forest due to a failure engine. But the story, it was an happy story, because I should have died in this accident, in this crash, because it was a serious crash due to this failure engine. And I only broke my two legs, so it was very severe, very severe injuries. But as I said, at the end of the day, I should have died, so it's not that bad. So I spent due to that, I spent a lot of time at the hospital for I had two surgeries, and after that I have to do the reeducation, and I had to learn how to walk again, because it was a really severe accident. So I had a lot of time in front of me, because when you are at the hospital, there is nothing to do, and you have the two legs broken, you cannot walk, you cannot move. So, but except my two broken legs, I was perfect in terms of physically speaking. I mean. So I was able to think, I was able to talk, to hear, no problem at all with all of my capabilities. So I decided to use this time to focus more on my manuscript, and it is what I did during 6 months. Continuously, I wrote this book to complete the work. So it is the story behind the manuscript of my first.
Yeah. Do you feel like, first off, I'm so glad that it was a miracle and you didn't have more severe damage. But do you feel
Thank you.
like in some ways that was something that helped you recover? Like for people, that's a very traumatic experience, right?
Yeah.
To have that. And do you feel like having that focus helped you? I just feel like that could be very discouraging, having two broken legs and not being able to do anything, but having something to focus on kind of helped your recovery as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. I never thought about that, but now you tell me that, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it played a role in my recovery because, when your brain is focused on something, uh, and it's easier. You don't discourage. You keep a sense of motivation for something. Okay, and probably you're right that for my recovery it helped. It not only that, because there are many other things that can help for the recovery. But yeah, I think you're right. And yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that would just be an extremely difficult circumstance. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
on the other hand, as I said before, and before this accident, the manuscript was progressing, but
progressing.
not that fast.
Yeah.
And it was the opportunity to tell me, okay, Dominique, you want to publish this book, go for it now. Put
Yeah.
all your energy on it. It is the opportunity to do that. And it was also like, it is something I have to do because maybe I could have died. So the book would not be published. So I told me, okay, go for it. You want to do it now.
Yeah. That's absolutely remarkable. And really glad you did it. Really glad you did it. So for anyone who doesn't know, who's listening, this is a copy of the book, and it is masterful text. Masterful text. I have not gone through it all. I'm not a finite element analysis engineer, but what I have gone through has been absolutely phenomenal. Well written, clear, graphics are great. And we can put a link to where you can access it in the show notes. But coming back
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. A little bit more of the book. One of the things that you've also talked about, part of the motivation, right, of you describe in some of the parts that I've read about your writing of the book and why you decided to do it, that it was really hard to connect the literature, the academic literature, to what you were actually trying to do in your finite element simulations. And so you said that, yeah, it was really difficult to do that. And even in the CFD world, Suhas Patankar has written that what he observed as well in the genesis and motivation for writing his book was successful strategies rarely appear in print. And we have theory, and even in journal papers, you can see people skipping lots of steps, and it's not doing things. But did you find that to be the case? And was that part of why you wanted to consolidate what you'd learned through the mistakes and the things that you'd made?
Yeah. I like this question a lot. Thank you for asking that, kid. That's very good. Yeah, the field of finite element analysis has seen significant advancement over the years, both in terms of theoretical foundation, but obviously practical application. However, as you said, there is a significant disparity between the overall literature on theoretical aspect and practical real-world application. And as you said, this issue is not unique to FEA, and you know that it is also prevalent in CFD. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the main challenges in FEA literature, because here it is what we're talking about, is the gap between theory and practical implementation. Academic publication and textbook generally tend to focus heavily on the mathematical and theoretical underpinning of FEA. While this knowledge is very important, not upon that, okay, it often leaves a void. I like to use this word, a void, when it comes to practical guidance, okay? So students and engineers require more than just an understanding of the theory. Okay, don't get me wrong. It's very important to understand the theory. Okay, in the FEA domain and CFD domain, but they need practical, concrete, hands-on strategies to tackle the real-world problems effectively. And it's important because the real-world problems that we want to solve with simulation are complex. We don't use simulation to solve a simple problem. Okay. And we have to talk also about proprietary knowledge and competitive advantage. And it's very important to talk about that because a significant reason why successful strategies in FEA may not be widely documented is the proprietary nature of the method. And companies and professionals who develop innovative techniques and methodologies often consider them competitive advantage. And I have to say that it's not only in the FEA or in the CFD domain, it's also on other domains. But here we're talking about FEA, okay, and CFD. So sharing these strategies, this technique openly, or how to say that, they could potentially diminish their edge in the market. So as a result, many effective practices remain within the organization, okay, in the company. They are not public. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So in practical FEA, experience and expertise play a crucial role, okay? Engineers often develop effective strategies through years by working on a real project, on a real product, and learning, as I said before, from the successes and failures by doing trials and error and by experimenting, okay, simulation and comparing to the reality. This knowledge, based on the experience, is incredibly valuable, okay, and it's challenging to convey through the literature alone. Mm-hmm. So, training, mentorship, and collaborative projects are often more effective ways to transfer this type of knowledge. Okay. So, despite these challenges, there are efforts within the FEA community, and I am part of that, to bridge the gap between theory and practice. So we see conferences, workshops, professional networks. They are very, very good platforms for sharing the practical insight and strategy. Also, online forums, the famous webinar, and the industry publication contribute to this knowledge exchange. Even though in a more informal and less permanent manner than the traditional print media. Okay. So to conclude with this question, I strongly believe that there is a clear need for more practical literature in the field of FEA. Okay, books, articles, and resources that focus on real-world application, case studies, and the practical problem-solving technique would be highly beneficial. These resources could help bridge the gap between the academic knowledge and the practical expertise, providing the engineers with the tools they need to apply FEA effectively in their day-to-day work.
Yeah, it's definitely something I observed in my transition from the theory and trying to implement this for a company on company timelines too. It's another thing that is very critical when you're looking at deploying simulation for a company to get value out of it. It has to be on an acceptable timeline for them to really reap the benefit. So what do you feel like, and we've touched on this a little bit, but what do you feel like makes learning finite element analysis or finite element methods and then doing the analysis difficult? Are there some key things that you feel like really makes it difficult? And then maybe coming back to our question earlier, the second part of that would be, in today's fast-paced world, right? Everything is instant. You can get almost anything on demand, on demand. Do you think that has also contributed to the misconception of people expecting they can become an expert by downloading something? And there's a mindset problem, maybe just as much as there is a resource problem, right? We've addressed the resource problem, but resources only go so far. If you don't have the right mindset, there's nothing we can do to help you.
Yeah. So there are 2 points in this topic. Let's start with the first one. What makes learning FEA so difficult? Yeah, it's difficult. Let's say learning FEA presents a unique set of challenges, even for students, but even for professionals. Okay, the complexity of the subject matter, coupled with the complexity of applying theoretical knowledge to practical problems, makes mastering FEA formidable. And as I said before, it is because we use FEA to solve complex problems. We don't use FEA to solve a simple problem, because if I have a simple problem, I'm going to do AM calculation with a closed form solution with an equation and done. But if I use FEA, it is because I have a complex problem to solve.
Yeah.
Additionally, the fast-paced structure of today's world significantly influence the students' expectation and approaches to learning. Okay, often exacerbating these challenges. It is the problem. So I want to talk about the complexity of the subject matter. Okay, FEA is inherently complex. It requires a strong foundation in a lot of domains: mathematics, mechanics, and computational methods. The theoretical underpinning involve advanced calculus, differential equations, and numerical analysis. And understanding how these mathematical principles translate into practical simulations is crucial. This requires not only theoretical knowledge, but also the ability to apply it in a computational context, because FEA is evolving in a computational context, which can be discouraging for many years. On top of that, we have the fact that we have the interdisciplinary nature of FEA. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Blending elements of mechanical engineering, material science, and computer science. So students must grasp concepts from each of these fields and understand how they interact within the framework of FEA. And this interdisciplinary nature can be overwhelming, okay? Because it demands a broad and deep understanding of multiple domains. So mastering FEA also involves becoming proficient with personalized software tools. We have no choice. There is the theoretical aspect, there is the learning of the modeling technique, but at the end of the day, we have to use a software in order to conduct the simulation. Okay, and these softwares are very powerful, but they are complex with steep learning curve. So students must learn to navigate and use these tools effectively, for sure, which include understanding the software-specific terminology, the commands, and the workflow which comes with those software. And this adds an additional layer of difficulty. And proficiency with the software is, as I said, essential for conducting this simulation. Okay? One of the most significant challenges in learning FEA is, as I said before, bridging the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application. I like to say my Tai Chi master, Sifu Sergio, always tell me conceptualization comes from before implementation. Okay, textbooks. I like this idea. Textbooks and academic courses provide the necessary theoretical background, but the real-world problems often present unique and unforeseen challenges. So, developing the skill to translate theory into practice, troubleshoot issues, and adapt to varying scenarios requires experience and critical thinking, which can only be developed over time. So it is very important. It is why it is very important to have in mind that the conceptualization of FEA is very important, and we have to start with that. We don't have to go to the implementation, to the software level right away. We have to start with theory, the modeling technique, and after that, when we have this strong foundation, we can jump to the practical aspect, not the practical aspect, the software aspect. So to come back to the origin of the question, the today fast-paced culture profoundly influences how the students approach learning. And it's not only about FEA, it's about learning in general, what I say. Generally, the expectation for quick results and instant gratification is prevalent. And this mindset can neutralize the deep understanding, and the deepest understanding is fundamental in FEA. Students may become frustrated with the slow progress and the time needed to fully understand and apply complex concepts on complex subjects. The fast-paced nature of modern life has contributed to shorter attention spans. We talked about focus before, and a tendency toward superficial learning. Many students prefer quick tutorials, the famous quick tutorial on YouTube, the 10-minute tutorial, and concise summary over in-depth study. And it can be detrimental when learning a complex subject like FEA or CFD. Superficial understanding is insufficient for mastering FEA and CFD because it requires detailed comprehension and the ability to apply knowledge to varied and complex problems. So, in conclusion, I would say that I would say that mastering FEA requires, I said that before, but I want to review it because it's very important. Passion, persistence, and a willingness to engage in sustained focus study. Okay? The fast-paced culture often discourages these qualities, promoting instead, we call that a quick fix mentality, Overcoming this cultural influence involves fostering a mindset that values deep learning and long-term commitment to mastering the subject, FEA or CFD. But as I said before, it is valid for learning in general.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. One of the things that struck me as you were expounding this, and I'd never thought of it this way, it's an irony that at the time in the world where deep focus is probably most important for people in their career moving forward, right? The ability to focus deeply on complex things is at a time in the world when it's the least easy to do by default, right?
Absolutely.
Like, kids don't know how to be bored anymore. They forgot what it's like. Even adults, right? We forgot what it's like to be bored. You can have anything to distract you at any instant. And Cal Newport, if anyone's listening, Cal Newport has written a lot of books. He's got a book called Deep Work that if you're looking to go more into the science of that, I'd highly recommend reading Deep Work. So any of the listeners. So,
but you know what? Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, Kate. And on the other hand, uh, gaining this deep focus, I think uh, it gives an edge over other people. If you have this capability to enter, to put your mind, your brain in a deep focus mode, it gives you a huge advantage on other people.
Yes. Which is like the double irony of it, right? That it doesn't take that much more to have that edge because
No,
it's so hard for everyone else, and the majority are not doing those things. So in
correct?
some ways, it still comes out as as if you can master it, you're going to be doing very well. And that's one of the
Absolutely.
things Cal talks about in his book too. So a little bit more in chapter 3 of the text here, I'm going to open right to it. You talk about there are 3 stages of the FEA process, and one is
Oh, yeah.
learning the theory, right? We talked about that, the underpinnings of the mathematical theory and the understanding of where it sits. But then stage 2 is proper modeling techniques, and then learning how to use the software is stage 3. And I feel like, as my experience, this is just from my experience coming to CFD, but my experience was I felt like there was so much confusion in my mind. On one end of the spectrum, I felt like you'd have people saying, "Oh, you can't even think about doing CFD until you've done a course in numerical analysis and doing the full gamut of all of these things." And then you have the other side of the spectrum, and maybe if we look at this as a continuum, this would be one extreme, and then the other extreme would be, okay, just pick up the software and run. And I think what people, especially newcomers, what they often forget is there are gradations of simulation, right? If you have a software tool that limits your exposure to selecting settings, and they have default settings because it's for a very narrowly defined focus, and this tool is valid for these types of simulations, and whether it's the developers or internal company policy has developed protocols for when that tool should be deployed. But I feel like one of the main struggles that I get asked on LinkedIn and elsewhere is this inability to look at the landscape of simulation software, right? It's so diverse. Companies are deploying it so many different ways that when we're talking about doing simulation, well, it's okay, for what, for who, and what accuracy are you expecting, right?
So
Like
true.
they're asking a question that's just the tip of the iceberg, and really, to give them a realistic answer, we need to give a lot more backstory. But generally speaking, and we're going to try to generalize, and keeping in mind that anyone who's listening to this, please get more specific on your questions and find a mentor to clarify things. But generally speaking, I still find that the community still kind of, it talks in one of these 2 continuums, that you have maybe software providers that maybe push a little bit, just use the software, we'll teach you how. But then on the other side, I feel like you have professors who, I love all of my professors and I know that they're doing great work, but at the same time, nobody needs a PhD in a subject. That's not a prerequisite to doing good industrial
Correct.
simulation. And I will
Correct.
stand by that emphatically.
Totally.
So what are your thoughts on this, and what advice would you have to someone navigating this, that
Yeah.
it just feels overwhelming for a lot of students that are reaching out to
Yeah.
me, and
Sure.
they're just like, "Oh, I'm drowning in this information.
Yeah.
How do I make sense of it?"
Yeah. 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 There are many advices we could share about that. And you have seen in my book this topic, how to learn finite element analysis. Those 3 stages: learn the FEM theory, learn the proper modeling technique, and learning how to use the software. This sort of recipe.
Yeah.
It's at the beginning of the book. And
Yes.
when I give the course, my online course, the on-demand, or even my live courses, I always start the course by talking about how to learn finite element analysis and presenting those 3 steps, because to me it's very important. And for me, it's like the magic recipe to learn it. Okay.
Yeah.
So first, I would say that the first advice I would share is balancing theory and practice when you learn FEA. Okay? An FEA student often find themselves at, as you said, at one extreme of a continuum. Either they disregard completely the theoretical aspect, or they feel overwhelmed by the need to master every detail before applying their knowledge practically. Okay,
Yeah.
we are agree with that. Both approaches can restrain progress, but also lead to frustration. Okay, so it is why I say finding a balanced approach is crucial for effective learning and professional development in FEA. Here, yeah, I'm going to share other advices after, but it's very, very important to have that in mind. This balance, okay, between the theory and the practice during the learning process. Also, I think it's essential to recognize that both theory and practice are integral to mastering FEA. You cannot do only theory or only practice. Very important.
They're inextricable.
Exactly. Exactly. Theory provides the foundational knowledge, as I said before, that underpin the method and the principle that we use and that the FEA software are using. So without a solid understanding of the theory, the student may struggle to understand the results of their simulation, or they may struggle also to troubleshoot the issues effectively. Because when we do with FEA, we have to do a lot of troubleshoot. You have no choice. Okay. Yeah. Conversely, practical application permits students to contextualize the theoretical knowledge, see its relevance, and develop hands-on skills that are crucial for solving the real-world problem. So keep that in mind. My second piece of advice is for overwhelmed by the breadth of information. Start with the basic. Okay? Focus on core concepts and principles that form what I call the foundation of FEA. Understanding the fundamental topic. Look, what I mean by foundation of FEA, the fundamental topic, such as, for example, for a structural analysis in FEA, the stress-strain relationship, the material property, the basic elements, the understanding of the library of elements. It's very important to learn those very advanced topics immediately at the beginning, okay? So building a strong foundation will make it easier to grasp more complex concepts later. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So based on that, it is why I like to suggest when you learn FEA, adopt an incremental approach to learning. Okay? And this is my third advice. Instead of trying to master everything at once, break down the learning process into manageable steps. Okay? You're doing FEA, and during FEA, you are going to do the criticization of the problem. Do the same with your learning process. Okay? Break down break down the learning your learning journey. Okay? So, study a theoretical concept, then immediately apply it using the FEA software. For example, after learning about meshing, practice creating meshes for simple geometry. And do that for every modeling technique. When you learn about, NPCs, the rigid body element, the library of elements, not only meshing, or the basic, the boundary conditions, how to apply load, use this approach, okay? Because this approach helps reinforce the theoretical knowledge through practical application. That makes learning more engaging and less overwhelming. Another advice I would like to share is, it is in the same ballpark as the incremental approach, but understand that learning FEA is an iterative process. You don't need to know everything to start using the FEA software. So as I said, begin with simple problem and gradually increase their complexity. Here, it's very important. Don't start with a complex problem. Start with simple problems to apply the modeling technique and the theoretical concept that you learned before. Don't do that on a complex problem. You won't understand what happened, okay? It will permit you to gain confidence and understanding on the specific modeling technique of a specific concept. And mistakes and challenges encountered during the practical application provide valuable learning opportunities. Keep that in mind, okay? Iteratively moving between theory and practice helps solidify the knowledge and the skill. Also, leverage a variety of resources to support your learning. And there are a lot: textbooks, online courses, tutorials, and forums, as I said before. They can offer different perspectives. And the word different here is very important. The variety of the learning is very, very important. Okay? So those different resources, they will offer different perspectives and explanations. Sometimes it's good to have the same concept explained but differently. Okay? Why I said that? Because it's because different explanation might resonate better with your learning style. Everybody have different learning style. Okay? So it is why I say engaging with the FEA community through forums and professional network can provide practical insight and advice from the experienced practitioner. So don't hesitate to seek guidance from instructors, mentors, or peers. And now with internet, it's very easy to do that. We don't even need to have the people in the same town, okay? Yeah. With internet, we have access to those people, the instructor, the mentors, okay? So I said that because here, the point I want to bring, it is the fact that discussing the challenges and solutions with others can provide new insight and clarify difficult concepts. And so discussing with instructors or mentors can offer valuable advice on balancing the theory and the practice based on their experience. Okay? So I will conclude with two last advices. Okay? The first one is adopt a growth mindset. Understanding that expertise in FEA, like any other field, CFD, but any other field of engineering, something you want to learn, develops over time through persistent effort and learning from mistakes, the famous trial and error. Okay? Don't be discouraged by initial difficulties or failure. It's very important. It's very good to fail in FEA. Okay? Yeah. We have to view them as part of the learning process. And finally, the last but not the least, stay updated and adapt. We know that FEA is continually evolving with new techniques, new software, a lot of software updates regularly released by the company. So stay updated with the latest developments and be adaptable in your learning approach, because continuous learning and adaptation are key to long-term success in it.
Yeah, thank you. Lots of good stuff there, which really dovetails nicely into the next question I wanted to ask you, which is why. Obviously, it sounds like you started the FEA Academy to help address some of these issues, right?
Yeah.
But what benefits and we've really kind of answered this again already too, of what benefits come from taking courses from FEA Academy that you can't get from university. For example, just one anecdote. I remember at university being taught a theoretical concept that was important, but then asking, so why does this matter in industry? And they couldn't tell me. And it was no fault against the professor, right? They
No,
hadn't
no.
worked in industry, but they didn't have an answer. And so immediately it was difficult for me to know where to hang that piece of knowledge as a student, as a learner. And so one of the things I've loved that you've emphasized today is by going to the foundations, I think this is attributed to Elon Musk. He talks about building a learning tree. If you start with the trunk, you can properly organize everything and hang the branch on the trunk. And you don't need to memorize stuff because you understand the core and you understand how it fits together, and that's more important. So has that been your intent with FEA Academy to bridge that gap? And what benefits or what things do you hear from students about what they've appreciated from FEA Academy?
Yeah, I don't want to blame the universities, okay, for how they teach FEA in their programs, but what I noticed it is the fact that at the university they're very good for the theory. Most of the time, the theory is very well taught, okay, but after that they jump directly to the software, and they miss the second stage that I called the modeling technique. Okay, so it is the reason why I started FEA Academy, in order to bridge this gap between this academic knowledge and the practical application in the field of FEA. So as a professional in engineering, I observed that the traditional university courses often focus, as I said, heavily on theoretical concept, sometimes at the expense of the practical skill. Why this theoretical foundation is, as I said, very important. It can leave students, and it leaves students, because every student said that, it leaves students unprepared for the real world challenges, okay? The real problem that they have to solve as soon as they are working on a real project, when they have to develop a product using finite element. So this gap inspired me to create a specialized learning platform that combines a robust theoretical understanding with practical workflow-based training. Okay, one of the key benefits of taking an FEA course from FEA Academy, and I say that, but not only me, my students very often they tell me that the key benefit over a traditional university programs, is the focus on practical application. The FEA Academy courses are designed to provide immediate, applicable skills that students can use in their current or future jobs. Okay, so it is really the essence of FEA Academy and my motivation with the FEA Academy.
Yeah.
And another significant advantage, I would say, is the flexibility and accessibility of the FEA Academy courses. I say that because university programs are often rigid with fixed schedule and limited course offerings. FEA Academy offers self-paced learning, enabling students to progress through the material at their own pace. Because sometimes I did the lesson live, but I have also the lessons available on demand. Okay, so it fits their studies around personal and professional commitment. This flexibility ensures that learning is accessible to a wider range of students, including the working professionals who may not have the time to attend the traditional classes. Okay. Also, I would say that FEA Academy provides a unique opportunity to personalize the learning and also direct interaction with me. This direct access to my expertise permits the students and the engineers to gain insight that go beyond the textbook or the video, benefiting from the practical experience and the tips that I share with them. You see what I mean? So I think it's a main advantage of an academy like FEA Academy. And the inclusion also of a workshop example, because I have a partner on those courses with Stefan Evans from Evotech TAE, and he developed for me a lot of workflow example, showing finite element analysis in action. In my lecture, I present the modeling techniques with many examples, and on top of that, Stefan Evans from Evotech TAE demonstrate what doing the workflow example, demonstrating FEA in action. Okay.
Yeah.
So it is the reason why the FEA Academy courses provide the detailed workflow example that guide students through the entire process of setting up, analyzing, and interpreting the FEA simulation. So in conclusion, FEA Academy was founded to address the need for practical, flexible, and accessible FEA education. And to be honest, I have to say that I had that in my mind, an academy. When I started to write the book, I had that in my mind. I wanted to do something online, but not that fast. But I did that very fast because it was a demand. After I published the book, many students contacted me, telling me, "Hey, Dominique, do you have a course which go with it, with this book, textbook?" And my answer was no, not yet. So it forced me to do that before I was expecting.
Yeah.
It's good.
Which I wanted to ask that. So I'm working on a book right now, and part of the reason for the book was similar to what you described, right? There's such a gap, and like you said, more resources of practical and applied things. And I really want to emphasize this too for someone who's listening, that and you highlighted this implicitly in your discussion, that one of the things we know about learning and the brain is the feedback loop. If you do something and there's a long time between the action and the feedback, then it's not as reinforced. The brain does not make the connections that it makes when it's a tight feedback loop. And that's part of the things of deliberate practice in the science. And this is a very well-documented science, that deliberate practice, what qualifies for deliberate practice is learning, action, feedback. And so the thing that these courses offer is learning, action, feedback, where in university, you really don't get the feedback on the practical side at the level or with the specificity or the context that you need to really progress in industry. And so that's something that has become very apparent to me.
Totally agree with that. And, that's very smart to mention this feedback, kid. And it's very important in FEA and CFD to make progress and to validate what we learn.
Yeah. It's so, and the other thing too that goes on to this, we've been talking about this as well, is the staying motivated, right? This false belief that every expert just jumps up out of bed every morning excited and never discouraged to work on stuff, right? They fall asleep. But one of the things that is true is other research is documented, and you can find this in Harvard Business Review, but a study that showed one of the most powerful forms of motivation is seeing progress. And feedback loops allow that. So even if you didn't do well, like I'll share a story here because I wasn't very good at math. In my linear algebra class, I got like a D- on my first test. And I was just like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to be an engineer. What's wrong? But the next class, or the next test, I did very well. And it was, when you get feedback, people view negative feedback as a bad thing. But in reality, it just tells you what direction you need to take and what you're not doing. And you mentioned this too, that mistakes are necessary. And so I think we just need to normalize well-intended failure, right? We're not advocating anyone going out and breaking stuff and malpractice, but failure is part of the process. And
Yeah.
so coming back to this idea of feedback and learning,
Mhm.
benefits did you get from writing the book personally? Like, I can imagine it's very different from having, and I'm experiencing this personally now, it's very different from knowing something in your mind, but when you
Mhm.
actually have to articulate it and
Right.
guess somebody else's background and their knowledge depth and
Yeah.
having it resonate with them. But I'm really curious, obviously personally, in knowing what advice you would share from writing the book, and then what you benefited from personally as well.
Yeah. That's a great question. Uh, Before to answer, I like to share. I share always this quote with my student. You probably know it. It is this quote from Richard Feynman. If you want
Ah,
to master something, teach it.
teach.
A great way to learn is to teach,
Yeah.
but also it's also to write it, okay, and share it with other
Mm-hmm.
people. So writing a book on FEA, for me, it was a transformative experience that significantly deepened my understanding and expertise in the field. The, I said that because the process of organizing and presenting complex material for an audience, for the reader, required me to revisit and critically evaluate every concept and practice I intended to include in the book. Okay. First, I needed to explain FE concept clearly and accurately. Okay. Well, because it's a book, so you have no choice. And by the due to that, it forced me to consolidate my existing knowledge. I had to ensure that my explanations were both precise and accessible, you know, which required um, a huge review of the fundamental. This deepened my grasp of core principles and revealed nuances that I had previously overlooked or taken for granted. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So writing the book also highlighted areas where my understanding was incomplete. Even if I use them, okay? Sometimes we use some concept that we don't understand completely. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So to address these gaps, I delved into additional research and I went to the latest advancement and best practices in FEA. This process of continual learning not only filled in missing pieces, but also kept me up to date with emerging trends and technologies in the field.
Mm.
So it is the beauty of writing this book.
Yeah.
Finally, the collaborative nature of writing, including the peer reviews and the feedback from other experts or colleagues, provided valuable insight. Engaging with other experts and how to say that, incorporating their perspective, helped refine my understanding and improve the quality of the material. So this collaborative effort ensured that the content was both comprehensive and accurate. Because you can see in the book, okay, on the cover there is only my name, okay, but if you open the first page, you see there is a technical review committee of 10 people, which gave me their comment, they did the review of the text. Okay. So the process of writing a book, and in my case, this book for me was immensely educational. Okay, yeah, it not only solidified and expanded my knowledge of FEA, but also it improved my ability to communicate complex ideas effectively. So, and I will conclude with that. This experience has undoubtedly furthered my expertise and enhanced my ability to contribute to the field.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of the things, and I just held it up as you were talking. The technical review committee. I
Right.
have never seen that for a textbook of
Right.
this magnitude, and I was just so impressed with it when I got the book. Anyway, so just another excellent. I'm going to do that for my book. I was going to send it to a few people, but I
Yeah.
love the idea
Yeah,
of
I suggest you to do that. It's very valuable and very
yeah,
beneficial for the final tech. Believe
yeah,
me.
yeah. Um, in closing, wrapping up, I guess, our discussion today, where do you see the industry heading with simulation, and what trends are you seeing? Is you're seeing you have a lot of feedback loops, right? From your consulting business, from your teaching arm, and then the connections and relationships you have with different software companies. What trends are you seeing, Dominique, in the field of FEA, but simulation more generally?
Oh, there are many. As we said before, uh, we know that the FEA industry is experiencing significant evolution, driven by advancement in technology, obviously,
Mhm.
but also increasing demands for precision and the integration of FEA into diverse sectors. Because now FEA is used in every sector. Okay, at the beginning of FEA, it was used for civil engineering and aerospace engineering, but now it is no more the case. It's used everywhere. Okay, think about a product; it has been designed by FEA or CFD. So very important to have that in mind. As we look ahead, several trends, headwinds and tailwinds, are shaping the future of FEA. Let's start with the emerging trade in FEA. For sure, we have to talk about integration with artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay, it's a very important trend we have in FEA, and also I should say one of the most promising trends in FEA. Okay, artificial intelligence and machine learning. It, it's not completely deployed. It's in progress, but we see that it comes. Okay, these technologies are will enhance the predictive capabilities of FEA. Okay, by enabling more accurate simulations with less computational effort. The the second trend, I think, it's cloud-based FEA solutions. The shift toward the cloud computing will transform also the FEA landscape. And this the cloud computing is already there. It's not used by every domain, by every company, but it is still there.
Mhm.
It's already there. The cloud-based FEA solution offer the scalable resources, enabling users to perform complex simulation without the need for significant on-premises infrastructure. And it's very important, especially for the small companies, the small structures. So I like to say that this accessibility democratizes issue, allowing the smaller companies and the individual engineer, the individual consultant, for example, to leverage the powerful simulation tool. The third trend I see, it is the real-time simulation, what we call, digital twin.
Mhm.
This concept of digital twins, uh, what it is in reality, it is a virtual model, okay, of a physical system, which is created and upgraded in real time, okay? And this concept of a digital twin now is gaining traction, okay? And in this digital twins concept, FEA plays a critical role because we have to keep in mind that FEA is only a small domain of digital twins. Okay, digital twin is more global than FEA itself. Okay,
Yeah.
but FEA play a critical role in developing and maintaining these digital twins. Okay, providing continuous insight into the performance and the potential issues of the physical asset because it is the goal of those digital twins. Okay, the real-time simulation capability is particularly valuable in industries such as aerospace, automotive, and manufacturing, because the whole goal of those digital twins is to monitor the product during their life, okay, to predict what will happen. A first trend I want to talk about, it is the user interfaces, the enhanced, I should say, user interfaces. The advances in user interface are making FEA tools more user-friendly. And it is what we want. We want more user-friendly interfaces, okay? Simplified workflows and intuitive interfaces reduce the learning curve. We talked that before. The learning curve in FEA is steep, okay? Pretty steep. So having access to those simplified, user-friendly, intuitive interfaces reduce the learning curve, making it easier for engineers to adopt and use the FEA software effectively.
Can I just add a comment here?
Yeah, for sure.
One of the things that I see, and this goes back to the maybe dichotomy of the continuum of just learn the software, just learn the tools. I think for me, and this, I just realized this as you were talking, that embedded in that is a faulty assumption that the ease of user interface is directly tied or proportional to the engineer using its understanding, which is not the case, because we can have clean, that's just a little breakthrough moment for me, that I think that's part of why there's so much negativity towards just using a software, that we want the software, as you said, to be easier, cleaner, better workflow, more efficient, but we can still have the engineer equally trained and focus on what their time should really be focused on, right? Not clicking more. Anyway, that was just something that dawned on me as you were describing that. So thank you.
No, totally agree with that. Totally agree.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail. I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out for.
Yeah, that's a good, very good comment. I can only agree with that.
Yeah.
There was another point in your question about the
Headwinds,
headwind.
tailwinds.
Oh yeah, the headwind. I have to say the complexity and the learning curve. Okay, we have to talk about that. Because it is a major headwind.
Yeah.
Despite the advancement, the inherent complexity of FEA remains a significant barrier. Okay, and the steep learning curve can discourage new users and require substantial training and education. So, addressing this challenge requires ongoing effort to improve the software usability and provide comprehensive training resources. And it's not easy to do for the developer of the software. Okay, I know it's complex, but I think it's a major headwind in the FEA industry, the complexity and the learning curve of refining. Another one is the data management and security. And believe me, especially true in aerospace, but I'm pretty sure it's true in other domains. Okay. FEA simulations become more data intensive. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Managing and securing this data becomes critical. So, ensuring the integrity and confidentiality of simulation data, especially when using the cloud-based solution that we talked before, it is a growing concern. Okay, so it means that robust data management practices and stringent security measures are essential to mitigate this risk. So it is another major headwind that we face in the FEA industry. The last one, I would say, would be the high computational cost. While the cloud computing mitigates some cost issue, high fidelity simulations can still be computationally expensive. No.
Yeah.
So balancing the need for detailed, accurate simulations with the associated cost remains a challenge for many organizations.
Yeah.
So let's finish this topic, this question with the tailwind, which propels the FEA industry. And we start with the ongoing digital transformation across industry is a significant tailwind for FEA, okay? And I say that because the demand for advanced simulation tool to optimize design, manufacturing, and the maintenance processes is increasing significantly, okay? FEA is becoming an integral part of digital transformation strategy. As I said before, now we cannot imagine a product designed without FEA. It's impossible, okay? Also, we have a more severe regulatory and safety standards that are driving the need for more rigorous analysis and validation of design. And not only in the aerospace industry. I'm working in the aerospace industry, and we have to deal with strong regulatory, severe regulatory and safety standards, but it's also true in automotive, in nuclear, the energy domain in general. And FEA provides the necessary tool to meet these requirements, okay? Ensuring that the product meets high safety and performance standard. This regulatory pressure is boosting the adoption of FEA across various sectors. So it is another tailwind. And finally, I would say the development of new materials, such as composites. We use a lot of composite in the aerospace industry, but I remember 20 years ago we did not, but now we use them a lot. And using those new materials is creating new opportunities for FEA, because these materials are, they have complex behavior, very complex behavior, and this requires sophisticated analysis technique. And FEA is essential for understanding and optimizing the use of the advanced material in the engineering.
Yeah. That is an exciting summary. And in short, I would just say, to put it clearly, now is an exciting time to learn FEA. There's no downside.
Oh, yeah.
If you're thinking about jumping in, jump in. And
Absolutely.
ride the
And
wave.
believe me, you're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You're going to have access to a wide variety of projects all over the world in a lot of different domains. It is the beauty of this discipline. And it coincides with CFD.
Yes.
Simulations and engineering.
Yep. Yeah, we are seeing, excellent summary. Thank you again, Dominique, for joining.
My pleasure.
And really appreciated the discussion. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Really, thank you. Did something about this episode stand out to you? If so, please go ahead and share it with others on LinkedIn or other social media so they can find this as well. See you next time.